are now locked in and listening to The Issue.
This guy is a franchise quarterback, and no, I don't want to hear any pushback on that.
It feels like a top 10 roster to me. It feels like it can win a championship.
This is The Issue.
Yo, what's up? We are back. It is The Issue. It's Friday, June 10th. A fantastic day, fantastic episode. Coming up in, this episode, we will have hits and misses to start the show like we normally do. Then we're going to get into a rant from Tim. In the second segment, Mike Nicastro comes on. One of the favorite guests of the show. He's been on before. Absolutely going to be fantastic to listen to.
He just knows his stuff so well. It's like all he does, which is basically all I do as well. But he's on Twitter responding to people, making mock draft. I think he made a 7-round mock draft.
He did.
Do you know how much knowledge you have to have to, first of all, to want to do that, and then to be able to do that? And I think he got the DeMarvin Leal pick correct. I saw that on his mock draft because I checked it out. So he just knows his stuff. He's a good guy to talk to. So super nice guy. He
will be with us in the second segment. And then in the third, we will have our top 5 quarterback wide receiver duos going into the 2022 season. And that will be a good list to get out. I feel like it's kind of one of the more pressing issues for a team. We've seen now Cincinnati go through an entire season with a horrific and, utterly bad offensive line.
Really bad.
And that's usually one of the building blocks and pieces that matters the most when you're putting together a Super Bowl roster. So they were able to go do it with just basically Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. You will see, I'm just going to tell you, they are on the list. You'll see where they're at on the list. Is a little more shocking. So stick around for that. We will be getting to that in the third segment, like I said. But first, we're going to start off with hits and misses like normal. Don't want to mess with what works. So let's go there.
Per usual. All right, let's start with hit number 1. So a little bit of hockey. So I did pick Calgary as my dark horse. Obviously, that is technically a miss. But I did say in conjunction with that the Avalanche should be favored. And wow, God, they're just so good.
They are.
And they are, I think they're up 2-0, maybe even 3-0 at this point. They're just a different level of hockey team. First of all, they're fast, they're skilled, they're disciplined, right? Fantastic watch. One of the best watches in the league. And normally you'll get like a team like Arizona, right? When they're clicking, like in football I'm talking, one of the best watches in the league. Not always the best team, right? They're not the most technically sound up front.
Very exciting.
Defense has some holes.
Very exciting though with Kyler, with the weapons that they have when they're playing on all cylinders.
Absolutely. Rondale Moore, right? Zach Ertz, like really, really fun watch. The Avalanche are the best watch in the league and probably the best team, right? Because not only are they skilled, they're fast, they're moving, they're also really disciplined, have great defense, the coaching's fantastic, the goaltending's great.
What they did against the Blues was impressive to me. I watched
a lot of that series.
A lot, and especially Game 4, I think it was. The Avalanche dominated. They were all over every single puck. We watch the Penguin games all the time. We sit there, we're like, why is nobody there? Like,
it seems like we weren't in the
when a
spots.
Rebound will come out.
Right.
Everybody's in the right spot. Right. Everybody's taking shots. The shots are really quality. Just placement-wise, velocity.
They've been really, really patient over the last couple of years, letting their young guys kind of come up, develop Makar and McKinnon. And
I was going to say, it feels like for like the last 5-6 years we've been saying, the Avalanche are going to be really good coming up. And,
right.
And they finally are.
I think the chemistry that they've built in those growing pains, that's probably why they're all in the right spot all the time. The spacing, they're used to who's going to be where, in what situation. So the spacing's really, really good. All right, miss number 1 here. So I got to say, I'm not a big complaint about the refs, the umpires, whatever. Calls happen. They go both ways, right? The ebbs and flow. But I have seen some horrific umpire issues with the MLB. Like a really bad. I don't even think it's the calls that are really the problem here. I think it's like the professionality of the umpires. Seriously, I just watched a game. So the game in question is what caused me to feel this way, right? So the game I'm going to talk about, an ump. So the pitcher didn't like a couple calls, said something, nothing that crossed the line, right? You'll see MLB pitchers kind of say something towards the umpire every now and then. Didn't say anything super aggressive, didn't walk aggressively towards the plate, took a couple steps off the mound. Where was that? Outside? It wasn't outside.
Normal.
Yeah, right, the normal stuff, right? Didn't cross the line. The ump then proceeded to take 3 aggressive steps towards the mound. Like, aggressive steps toward the pitcher. Had to be held back. Like, the catcher had to get in front of him. Like, the catcher from the Diamondbacks had to get in front of him. The manager then comes out to let him know, hey, that's not okay. Like, that's not okay for an umpire to initiate that sort of altercation.
Yeah.
Before he even got to the home plate area, the coach got thrown out. I mean, that is ridiculous. That is... The fact that the umpire can start the altercation, and then throw out the manager for wanting an explanation as to why he would start the altercation. That's ridiculous. That's utterly ridiculous. That umpire should be suspended, fined, under review to be terminated. I mean, seriously, that is embarrassing for the league. It's so embarrassing.
Soft. It's so soft. What you can't at least hear the coach out. You can't explain
why you felt the need to walk aggressively towards the mound.
Why you're acting like that. I also saw one. I forget what game it was, but the pitcher got thrown out in the last inning. He was the closer.
Yeah.
And he almost hit. I think it was the Dodger.
No. It was an Astro that threw inside to a Royal.
That's what it was.
And here's the thing.
It was in the last inning.
And they were like, oh, it could have been retaliatory because they hit Yordan Alvarez. The Royals hit Yordan Alvarez with a slider. And it's like a 4-run game, 7-3 in the ninth. Why would the closer want to hit somebody?
I don't know. You said, when you started talking about the umps, I was like, oh, that's where he's going with it. And then it wasn't. There's 2 examples right there from like the last week in MLB baseball from...
Right. And you want to know who that umpire was? Vic Carapazza, the one in the Royals game. That's ridiculous. I mean, first of all, nobody goes to see the umpires, right? I think they make it about themselves, and it bothers me so much. Yeah. It's embarrassing for the league. Okay, I've said it 1,000 times. This is hit number 2. I've said it 1,000 times, and I'll get to it more in my little rant here in a couple minutes. But quarterbacks are of such uber importance and uber value. The Broncos just sold for $4.5 billion with a B. And I don't think that's because they're a super well-run organization since Elway and Manning, right? Since Elway, they haven't found their franchise guy. They had Manning. They rented him for a year and got a Super Bowl out of it.
Yeah.
They haven't been able to kind of steer the franchise in the right direction for like a decade, right? Like not a dynasty, but a really solid decade. Like kind of what the Steelers had with Big Ben. Decade and a half of just, we're not going to lose. We might not win it all, but we're just not going to lose. They haven't been able to do that, and I think it's Russell Wilson the reason that they got the $4.5 billion. I mean, that's point blank.
I mean, just his name alone probably adds maybe even $1 billion. So
I said up to $800 million, maybe. All right, miss number 2. I said this that the Phillies division to lose. Like now that Jacob DeGrom was out for like a large portion of the first part of the season, right? Could be out until the deadline, and could be out till the All-Star break. Well, they've now fired Joe Girardi, and they just can't find their way to even second in the division. They're just really not super competitive. Now, granted, they had a pretty sweet game the other day where Bryce hit a upper decker grand slam, and then a rookie walked it off with a 3-run blast. So maybe starting to right the ship a little bit, but right now they just don't look like it's going to be their division. Hit number 3. I say it all the time. Good teams get it. Bad teams don't. The Bears can't keep anybody. They can't keep anybody. Traded Khalil Mack. Couldn't pay Allen Robinson. Now Akeem Hicks has been signed to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That was their best defensive player post Khalil Mack, at least most impactful. And I don't understand how they can be so poorly run. Like I just don't get it. I don't understand it.
They're so poorly run that they have no money to pay anybody worthwhile, and they
have a young quarterback. They're not even paying their quarterback.
No, they're not paying their quarterback. They're not really paying any position of need. I mean,
linebacker and safety. I can't even tell you their best safety. Is it Eddie Jackson, maybe?
And that's where their money's tied up in.
Doesn't make any sense to me. Doesn't make any sense. We don't have a miss number 3 today. We just have another hit because it took me... I was sitting here for 5-10 minutes stewing over what I could possibly say is a miss number 3. Couldn't find anything. We're just that good.
Yeah, I mean, that's what happens when you're such a well-run show.
We're getting good at this.
We are.
Point blank.
When you can't find a 3rd miss, you can only find a 4th hit. That only says... I mean, that's only good.
It is only good. So anyway,
what is it?
My pick for AL MVP was Rafael Devers. Now, he's not the favorite right now. He's probably 3rd. But most years, he'd be number 1. First of all, Judge is on a torrent pace. and so is Jose Ramirez from the Guardians, right? Jose Ramirez is on pace for like 150 RBIs, which is disgusting. Right? If it wasn't for those two ahead of him, Devers would be the odds-on favorite. He's absolutely balling out, right? He's on pace for like 35 bombs. He's on pace to hit 340 on the year, almost 100 ribbies, and probably a Gold Glove. And that was his weakness a couple years ago.
Wow.
And he's turned into a strength. Might be a Gold Glover, and I probably think he'll even beat those stats that I just listed. I mean, he's been absolutely fantastic. Like I said, he was my pick for MVP. He's definitely in the top 3 to 5 right now for AL MVP. I mean, he's been a dog. Big fan of Rafael Devers. So I want to transition into a little bit of football. And there hasn't been a whole lot of football news, but I think there's something that's pretty important for not just, who's better than who or something like that right in this current moment. I think it's pretty important for the entire sport, right? And I've been saying this for a while. This was part of Hits and Miss, and I said I'd elaborate on it. Here it is, right? So Russell Wilson is one of the most valuable people in football. Not just players. I'm talking people, right? I know there's a very short list of people that will go to a franchise and completely change it, right? From president, CEO, all the way down to the 53rd man on the roster, right? I think he's one of the most valuable people in the NFL that can go to a team and completely change the culture. We see GMs and coaches and CEOs, presidents, whatever. We see recycling of these positions, right? Fired, hired. I mean, we have 8 new coaches every single season, every single NFL season. Probably another 4 more GMs. It feels like maybe 2 or 3, but turnover everywhere, right? You can't change my mind that Russell Wilson is one of the major reasons the Broncos just sold for $4.5 billion. You just can't do it. Right? If Drew Lock is the quarterback of the Broncos right now, I think they sell for about $3.7, $3.8 billion. Right? So still have good weapons, good defensive line, good secondary. Even they say they still hire the young coach, Nathaniel Hackett, young coach, up-and-coming coach. Ownership's pretty good. John Elway's there, right? That he brings some cachet. He's pretty valuable, right? I don't think they even come close to $4.5 billion. I don't say. I mean, seriously, right? They didn't even scratch the surface of the playoffs with Drew Lock, and now they're in the top 3 in Super Bowl odds. You don't think that matters? I mean, it definitely matters. I'll tell you that right now, right? Detroit, with more people in the city, right? Bigger market. Detroit, been around just as long. Doesn't have quite the history of success, but certainly a lot of fans, right? They've been around. Barry Sanders, Calvin Johnson, right? Some good names, right? Trust me, they aren't getting $4.5 billion. Let me tell you why. Because they stink. Right? They're not good. They're not competitive, generally speaking. I like their offseason, but they're not good. They're not competitive. How about a more fair comparison? I think Philadelphia is a more fair comparison. I think they have more of a history of success. I think, generally speaking, the populations are a little bit closer, right? Size of the city. Pretty passionate fans. I'd argue even Philly has more passionate fans. And I think skill-wise for the teams right now, they're comparable. The weapons, it's close, right? A.J. Brown, Jalen Reagor, who I don't love, but nonetheless still has some talent, right? Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, Miles Sanders, right? D-line and pass rush, pretty good, right? Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham. They just got Jordan Davis in Philly, right? And then on the flip side, the Broncos, right? They just completely rebuilt their the defensive line, right? DJ Jones, Randy Gregory, right? Bradley Chubb will be back. Maybe slight edge to Denver there, right? Secondary, I think, is pretty solid. Denver's a little bit younger, right? Eagles just got Bradbury. That's a solid secondary, both with a young coach. I see a lot of similarities with the rosters. I really do. Philly's not going to garner $4.5 billion on the open market. I'll tell you that right now. If they went up for sale tomorrow, now granted, might be influenced a little bit by this most recent purchasing of the Broncos, right? Kind of reset the market a little bit. Right, but Philly's not going to get $4.5 billion. With Jalen Hurts? Yeah, and he even got to the playoffs, and he's pretty productive. I don't love his upside, but he's productive. Guess what the Eagles are worth right now? About $3.8 billion. Just like I said that the Broncos would be with Drew Lock. And I said I threw out a number. I think Russ is probably worth about $700 to $800 million. Seriously, in the value for that franchise, and he's worth about that. What do you know? $4.5 billion minus the 3.8, we're about $700 million. That's called a culture shift. That's called influence, right? You're commanding greatness from everybody in the building. You rise to that occasion. He affects the entire organization, just like Tom Brady with Tampa, right? Just like Joe Burrow with Cincinnati, just like Mahomes with KC, Josh Allen with Buffalo, Herbert with the Chargers. Now, granted, it's L.A., so it's not like he made that team relevant, right? They're in L.A., they're just by default relevant, but he made them successful, right? But some teams don't get it. Chicago, both New York teams, Houston, right? Those organizations don't get that you need to make a splash at quarterback. Here's the organizations that do, right? How about Denver, for example? Both LA teams going out and getting a big swing with a quarterback. How about Vegas, who realizes, hey, it's an offensive league, we should probably go get Devontae Adams? How about Buffalo, Kansas City, Tampa Bay, Arizona? All teams I would really, really want to be this morning. Right, that's value. Right? What do you think the Bills would get on the open market right now? The Bills. Small town New York, right? Maybe not small town, but Buffalo's not, this is not Philadelphia, it's not New York, right? Right now, if I am a, I don't know, 100 billionaire, well, I mean, if I am like Jeff Bezos, right, and I want to buy a franchise, between Buffalo and let's go with even a big city like in New York. How about one with more success? So the Giants have generally historically been more successful. The Giants or the Buffalo Bills this morning? Well, let's see. So we have the Giants in one hand, rookie coach, quarterback who's probably gone after this season, wildly overpaid wide receiving core that never stays healthy and is never on the field, no talent on the offensive line. The defense is very overpaid and not very good. The drafts have been average at best, and I'll be nice. But on the pro side on that one, big city. Or would I rather be Buffalo? Josh Allen, Von Miller, Stephon Diggs, Sean McDermott, a proven head coach. Gabriel Davis, who's a 24-year-old stud of a second or third receiver. Stud. Just got O.J. Howard. Tons of offensive talent. Tre'Davious White on the back end. In the top 3 in Super Bowl odds and should compete for it. Or New York. Yeah, I'll take Buffalo. Over the course of that investment, do you know how much money Josh Allen is going to make Buffalo? Do you know how many home playoff games he's going to have for the next decade?
Plus, you can't leave out Bills Mafia.
You think Bills Mafia? I don't care. Put your price on the playoff tickets in Buffalo. The Bills Mafia is going, right? It's going to sell out. Put your price tag on it. Do you know how much money that he's going to make that franchise in just playoff games alone? Not to mention the fact that he is competitive and they are the favorites going into every single football game that they're ever going to have at home. At home with Josh Allen. Cha-ching. Right? Right. That every single game's going to sell out.
Yeah.
Every single one of them. Every playoff game's going to sell out. You think Kansas City isn't making big bucks off Mahomes already? Not to mention endorsements and all that, right? Because not only does some endorsement go to Mahomes, but if it's affiliated with the Chiefs, it goes partially to the Chiefs, right? We understand that. I mean, Russell Wilson just single-handedly made the former owner of the Broncos about $700 million extra dollars.
That's why they're not drafting these players solely based on skill and solely to be a quarterback. They're drafting who's going to be the best guy at the podium, who's going to be the best face of this franchise, the face of this team. That's why it's such a valuable position, because they make your organization so much more money than just ticket sales.
Right. I mean, I have my knocks on Dak. One of them is never what he's going to say at the podium. Right? As a business owner, Jerry Jones, of course he loves Dak. Of course he always says the right thing.
Dak's
really good on advertisements. Yep. Not to be weird, but like he's got the football smile, right? He's got like the quarterback, just looks like a quarterback, right?
He's just a leader. He has that
presence.
Leadership mentality.
And as much as I have my concerns about Dallas, I don't think they're ever going to be bad with Dak.
No, they'll never be bad, but
in that division, they have a chance to host a playoff game almost every year right now.
They do, as long as everything falls their way.
Right. But I mean, like right now, I don't think they're significantly worse than Philly. No, I like Philly's roster better, but I don't think they're significantly worse. Like, would it surprise you if Dallas won the division?
No, but I think it. It's funny you bring it up. I think it puts a lot of pressure on Dallas now that Philly's starting to stack a little bit of ammo. I mean, going up and getting A.J. Brown in the draft. Well,
Jordan Davis.
Not getting him in the draft, but acquiring him around the draft
through a trade.
Yeah, and just in free agency in general, basically. They killed it on their draft. They killed it in free agency.
Yeah. And what did Dallas do? Lost, I don't know, like 5 of their top 7 players?
Right. So I feel like this season there's a little more pressure on Dallas.
Right, but back to my original point, the value of Dak, right? Like, I don't even like Dak, and he's still really, really valuable.
Oh, yeah.
Right, and that's the value of these quarterbacks. They make buku bucks for the boys.
They do. Went off track there a little bit.
The owners are sitting in there cashing it. Hey, it's all right. I mean, we got time. We got a minute or so, right? We can go off schedule a little bit, have some fun. Especially because we have Mike Nicastro on next segment.
Yeah, excited for that.
It's so good to just pick his brain, right? Not many more people around this area, especially, not small-time guys, right? But, guys that are kind of in the same spot as us, have a podcast, still growing it, right? And, he is so connected, so fun to talk to. Seriously, go support his show. Yins Are Crazy. We'll talk about it next segment, but it's going to be a pleasure to talk to him. So
yeah, very excited for that.
We're wasting time sitting here looking at our ugly faces. So
let's just get to Mike Nicastro. Going to be a great second segment.
Should we do a drum roll?
And then leading into the third segment, we will have our top 5 quarterback and wide receiver duos to close out the show. But first, Mike Nicastro of yinsercrazy.com.
All right, here we are sitting down with Mike Nicastro. He's lucky, or we're lucky enough, I guess, to be able to get him on Zoom and talk to him a little better than a phone call. Mike, how you doing, man?
Good. I'm lucky, too. What do you mean? I get to hang out with you guys.
It's great to have you on. Mike Nicastro, Yins Are Crazy podcast. He's been on before, also yinsercrazy.com. Go check it out. They had awesome stuff. I know you guys covered the NFL draft a lot. You had a lot of stuff on the mock draft for Pittsburgh and just a lot of NFL teams in general. So you're very well versed in your football knowledge and in even baseball. So we're going to get into all of it today. Let's go.
Mike, so personally, I'm kind of indifferent about the Pickett selection. Like, I think at face value, right, they upgraded the most important position. That's important. But I'm not sure he's special, right? I think my personal choice, I would have probably retooled for maybe next year, right? I'm not saying tank. See what Mitch can do. Maybe win 6, 7 games. We'll be in a position to draft. I know that Tyler Van Dyke has been slotted somewhere around where we would have been, 10, 12 area. But I don't mind the selection. What are your thoughts on Kenny Pickett first, and then secondly, the rest of the draft as well?
Yeah, I hear you, Tim. I get the point. I was shocked, I think, along with the rest of Steelers Nation, that they passed on Malik Willis. Maybe it's easy to sit here in hindsight and say you're less shocked because he went in the 3rd round. But the upside factor you thought was really going to come into play more than it does with Pickett naturally, right? Now, who knows? There's nobody for sure that is like, yeah, we know his ceiling is capped. Like that, you can't speak in definites when you talk about that. However, it feels that way because he's, going to be 24. Spent 5 years at Pitt, right? So the guy feels like he's about as good as he's going to be, just without NFL schemes, tutelage, coaching. Always there's room to improve. Of course, he's going to improve. It's not like he's 36, right?
Right.
But at the same time, the comparisons for Pickett were like Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins at his ceiling, at his height. Those are good quarterbacks, right? There's nothing wrong with those guys. At the end of the day, if you build a really good team around them, you can win. I think the Steelers maybe were swayed a tiny bit by the fact that he was in the building. They played and trained again outside facility, or not against him, but with him for 5 years.
Right.
Probably had a little bit to do with it. And I think part of their mentality also is like, let's throw darts at the wall. Like, let's throw as many as we can and hope we hit a bullseye. Sign Mitch, bring in Kenny. Obviously, an awful, unfortunate, tragic passing of Dwayne Haskins, but he would have been in the mix. Even drafting Chris Oladokun shows that they're just throwing darts and hoping one hits. And if one hits, that's awesome, right? I've always said, like, if Trubisky is very, very good, if he comes out and shows Pro Bowl form like he did for a season previously with the Bears, that's a great problem to have, right?
Right.
If he's not very good, you turn it over to Kenny. And a lot of fans are like, thank goodness we drafted Pickett. So, yeah, I mean, I get the pick from the perspective that obviously you need a good quarterback to win in the NFL. He has some Joe Burrow comps, maybe to a smaller degree.
A little bit.
So.
The experience, the mobility. I think those are two things that in the leadership, there's another one I think that you really want to throw in there. That's the peak, man. That's the ceiling, of course. Like if he turns out to be Joe Burrow, yeah, you don't second guess. That's going to be a guy who's in the Hall of Fame.
Oh yeah.
I think it's going to be weird if he turns out to be Mitch Trubisky. I don't know what the heck you do if those two kind of have the exact flight plane for 2 years. It'll be interesting to find out. Yeah, as for the rest of their class, I love it. Really do. Great value with George Pickens in the second round. You know, people all like to throw out there all the time, this guy would have been the first player taken if he stayed healthy, blah, blah, blah. People say Justin Ross, if he didn't have his back problems from Clemson, first, second round. This is true with George Pickens. Like, this dude would have been a top 10 slam dunk pick. Crazy, like, catch radius, ball skills. He's tall, he's fast. He could just be a bit of an ass sometimes. That's a little bit of the knock on him. But I'm shocked they got him where they got him. And to pass on Sky Moore shows you a lot about how they felt about Pickens. DeMarvin Leal, that's the one pick I got right in my mock draft.
There you go.
Which is actually two. I got Connor Hayward, which is a lot more than a lot of people could say. I like him a lot. I knew the Steelers liked him because they watched so damn much of him. They drafted Dan Moore and Buddy Johnson, and when they're watching those tape from 2021, they're seeing DeMarvin Leal all over the field for
Yeah.
A little bit. So Calvin Austin, great value guy to replace Grady McLeod. And then obviously some pieces in there as well, like Oladoku, who knows, could add a speed element, be a lot of fun there. So we'll see. I'm not one to hand out grades because who knows. But if you force me, if you put a gun to my head, I'd give it a solid B+.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what we gave it. So, and that kind of makes sense. So you mentioned like the whole Mitch thing. Oh, Kenny's 24, right? And I think that he should start day one. I think bare minimum by week 4, right? I think he should be starting. Because if not, we're going to miss out on next year's draft class. Like if we don't see what we have this year with Kenny Pickett, I think next year's draft class is too loaded to miss out on. Kind of like a Josh Rosen, Kyler Murray scenario, right? Start him. Mm-hmm. Let's see what we got. I'm not afraid to move off him after only a year. What are your thoughts moving forward? Do you start him day one? Do you wait? Is it just a true quarterback battle? Who wins it in practice? Well, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, that's interesting. I've waffled on this, to be honest. Right when Kenny was drafted, I was on your team. I was on Team 10. And I said, you don't take a 24-year-old quarterback and keep him on the bench. You know, if that's the case, you don't take that guy. You take a younger guy, Ritter, Willis, Sam Howell at 21. Now, once again, in hindsight, when all these guys drop to the 4th round, it doesn't sound as sexy. However, as I mentioned before, I've kind of shifted perspective, and I would start Mitch with a short leash, naturally. And a short leash can do a lot of good things for Mitch because it tells him that he needs to be productive, as good as he can be these first handful of games. The reason I would start with Mitch is because I feel like you can easily transition from Mitch to Kenny. But once Kenny's in there, you can't go to Mitch.
That's fair.
You just can't do it.
Right.
I think even if Kenny really, really struggles, you get in his head, right? It's like pulling a pitcher with a no-hitter. I don't know. Like
right.
Next time he steps on the mound, he's going to be a little like, I should say it's like a pitcher with having a line drive hit over his head. The next time he goes out there, he's going to be seeing things and
right.
have ghosts like Sam Darnold, right? Like he's going to lose confidence.
Right.
So you can make that transition a lot easier than you can do the opposite. And once again, if Mitch is really good, cool. Stick with him, win football games, good supporting cast around him. If he sucks, whatever. You drafted Kenny Pickett for a reason,
right.
And then you're right. You'll get to find out if you had two guys, two darts, and they both missed the board next year and have more darts to draft a guy like Van Dyke or a guy like Bryce Young, CJ Stroud. You mentioned this class is nasty. For what it's worth, I don't see the Steelers finishing like worse than 5-12 anyway, so I don't know that they'll have a shot at those guys.
Yeah, that's absolutely fair. So real quick, we got about 5 minutes, or actually more like 3. The Broncos just got bought for $4.5 million. I think you could attribute $800 million to Russell Wilson. Do you think that's crazy? Like take Philly, who I think is pretty comparable, weapons, secondary, D-line, young coach, relatively similar size cities. Philly's maybe a little bit bigger. I think 4.5. I don't think they'd get that with Hurts. What are your thoughts on kind of franchise and how quarterback dependent they are, and even like the Broncos specifically.
I thought you guys bought the Broncos, right?
I wish, huh? That'd be nice.
No wonder you're asking the question. No, I get it. It's a little more strange when you have the quarterback who's aging. It would make more sense for, a team like the Bengals to go at that value because it's Joe Burrow, or, you gave an example of Jalen Hurts, right? I don't know about the stability ultimately there. Right. In terms of value being at the highest, it's always at the highest when you have a really damn good quarterback. The examples from the last few years prove it to the nth degree. Right. Matt Stafford goes to the Rams. They win his freaking Super Bowl, right? Brady takes over for Jameis. Their value has never been higher. Ticket prices, you could have walked into that stadium for $11 probably with Jameis, and now you can't walk in for less than $150.
Right.
It's just a quarterback-driven league. Quarterbacks bring revenue. I mean, here you go. When's Russell Wilson's first game going to be? Monday night.
Yep. Monday night, week 1, right?
Just like that.
Yep.
Monday night, prime time. I think it's against Seattle, his old team.
It is, yeah.
I'm pretty sure, which is going to be awesome. Just like that. Are they getting that with Drew Lock?
No, no shot.
When's the last time, they get a primetime game with Trevor Siemian, back in the day? No. So a quarterback changes everything. The valuation, I get it. They win the Super Bowl. Awesome. There's a lot of pressure on them in the Super Bowl. Just like the Rams had and the Bucs had. If they don't and have to look for another rookie quarterback, yeah, maybe a mistake.
Right. I totally agree. So, Mike, it's been an absolute pleasure running along time. I really, really appreciate you stopping by, especially on Zoom. It's an absolute pleasure.
You got it, boys. Yinzercrazy.com.
Yes, sir.
Check us out, download the YC podcast, subscribe, like it, hit us up. It's the issue.
There you go. Hey, we appreciate it, man. Thank you very much. All right. We are back. Third segment, the issue. Just got done talking to Mike Nicastro.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I don't really know what else to say that he didn't say. I mean, he's so well versed in the Steelers football, even a little bit of Buccos. We didn't even get to Buccos, but really, really well versed with the Pirates too. I think he said he had David Bednar on. Go check that out. The Pirates closer. Of course, after you're done listening here, we appreciate you stopping by. But Friday, is it the 10th already?
Yeah. It is the 10th.
June's flying.
I know. 10 days through June already. Doesn't feel like it at all. The weather's good.
Oh, yeah. By the way, sorry. Since I guess we didn't do that in second segment, third segment. Hot. Like really, really warm.
Yeah.
80s almost every day.
Sunny.
The
normal June in Pittsburgh, staying light longer. That's a plus.
It's better. It's better than the rainy spring, the cold winter, the windy fall.
Because there was a stretch there where we were recording and it was like
rain every time, I feel like.
Always precipitation, always windy.
Well, whenever we recorded up at Slippery Rock for a while, of course it was windy. It's always windy there every single day.
It's a wind
every
tunnel.
Single
it's a wind tunnel
month ever. It really is. It really is. Actually, I'm not sure summer is better than fall. Nothing beats early fall.
Like a September.
Yeah.
Like September
or
early October. I would not go
just getting there.
Late October kind of gets too close to November, December feeling.
Right, a little cold.
People start playing Christmas music on Halloween, which I don't get with.
I will say I don't mind sweater weather though. Put on some sweats, a little hoodie action.
That's fine. And early NFL season, awesome.
Because every Sunday is like a holiday.
But we went to a game in December. Was that December or January? That was December. That was December.
No, it was January. It was just January 6th or something like that.
That was
it? Was definitely January. 100% I remember.
Okay.
It was after the New Year.
Okay, so
which would be in January.
That was cold. Late NFL season gets tough.
That was not fun.
No.
That was not fun. But that's also not fall anymore, so I just want to clarify.
Yeah, it is.
Fall?
No.
Yeah, but, spring goes into June. Crazy things happen, all right? When does, the end of fall?
Either way, we have our top 5 quarterback wide receiver duo. This segment, we can't get too carried away with talking about Pittsburgh weather here in the third segment, Tim. We got to stay on some sort of a schedule of routine.
Come on, we are not meteorologists here?
Not yet, at least. So we're going to start.
We should just green screen this and put the radar up.
Every single time we talk about the weather. We'll just...
As you can see, we got a cold front moving through.
Clip the radar.
We got a low pressure system. It's gonna hit. We're gonna have some precipitation.
What we could even do is take the camera outside, take a couple videos, and show some clips. As we like pan across the.
We geologists and botanists and such. All right, so what we are though in reality are two guys that know a good deal about sports. So let's get back to that. Yeah. Top 5 wide receiver quarterback duos heading into the 2022 season. So this is not what they have done. Well, I mean, a little bit what they have done, but what we feel they can do this coming season, right? Like we have people on this list who haven't even played together yet in the NFL. So it's what we think you can do and will do this upcoming season. So let's get into it. Okay, let's start. Let's go start with number 5. Let's start with number 5. Derek Carr and Devontae Adams. First of all, I think Derek Carr is a top 10 quarterback. Now, I think he's 9 or 10, maybe 11. But I think he's really, really solid. And I think Devontae Adams, certainly has the argument that he's the best receiver in football. Like a very, very good, compelling argument that he's the number 1 receiver in football. Certainly the most productive and the most reliable. He's almost never hurt, and he's always producing. You look up, when's the last time you looked up and he had under 50 yards? I don't remember. I really don't.
No. Almost never. He's so productive. He gets off the line extremely quick. And can we talk about how diverse he is in his routes? I was watching a video where he was kind of explaining some of the stuff he does with like footwork, technique, and getting open. Absolutely insane. He'll put you...
Yeah.
Because most DBs, they're expecting 2 moves. They're expecting either that one and go or that one fake and then hit the other foot and go. He'll come out and throw 3-4 moves on a dude and have them sitting down on the turf.
He dances. It's insane. It's insane. The footwork is nuts. The routes are nuts. He's got good hands.
Of course, and then you pair him with a good quarterback like a Derek Carr, and
right. And he's already had a good quarterback with Rodgers, but I don't think Carr is Rodgers. But I don't think the gap is like the Grand Canyon.
No,
I don't think it's a crazy.
What I'm saying is a quarterback like Derek Carr, if Devontae Adams can get that open, and he is that route runner that can get that open, Derek Carr's gonna have a pretty easy day trying to find him.
Right. I think he can throw to an open man. Devontae is frequently open, and a new offensive coach with Josh McDaniels, the former coordinator in New England. So, our number 4, Tom Brady and Mike Evans. Now, both solid. Now, I don't think Evans is in the top tier of wide receiver. I think he's in that next tier down with like an A.J. Brown, with like a Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. I think they're kind of in that category, although Chase and Jefferson might sneak up to the top. I don't think he's quite in the top category yet. Now, I do think Tom is still up there with quarterbacks, right? But again, he is aging. Not that he's not committed, but he has talked retirement. He was retired for a second.
He's been putting a lot of work into his brand and the golf brand that he has.
Right. Not that he's not committed, but he's not obsessed like he has been.
Yeah.
How is that going to play out? And like I said, Evans is good, but is he that next tier? I'm not sure.
I don't think he's the most... I think he's the least... Okay.
I think he's the worst on this list.
Yeah, on this list of receivers here, I think he's the least talented.
Maybe not least talented. I just don't think he's the best NFL receiver.
Right. Out of
all things included, production, skill, durability, all things included, I don't think he's the 5th guy on this list.
And this next receiver is pretty good. A Matt Stafford and Cooper Kupp combo coming in at number 3. That is a duo that was electric all year. We saw it. And obviously they have the trophy to show for it as well. They have the Lombardi back in LA with them this summer. Stafford and Kupp, it seems that they're always on the same page. Especially, I've found Cooper Kupp is the ultimate safety valve too. When Matt Stafford starts getting into some trouble, starts rolling around in the pocket, trying to make some stuff happen, the guy that always seems to know what he wants to, like, where Matt Stafford, Matt Stafford wants to go with the football is Cooper Kupp, and he's always standing in that right spot, or at least getting to that right spot. Them at 3 really makes sense to me.
I couldn't agree more. And here's the thing. That duo in the first year led to the best single season as a wide receiver ever. I'm not sure what other evidence we need. So without further ado, number 2, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase.
Special.
Again, first year, a historic rookie season, the best rookie season ever in their first year in the pros together, obviously, because they were at LSU. And it also, I don't want to say carried, because that roster did have more talent than I think we give it credit for. But I think we can all admit it's not a Super Bowl roster. I think Kansas City's was better last year. I think Buffalo's was better last year.
Yeah.
And they end up coming out, right? So I think you can make the argument that in their first year together, they almost carried, and let's go with above average, but not great roster.
I was going to say.
To the Super Bowl, and was really close to winning it, and was open on the last play if it wasn't for a horrific offensive line allowing Aaron Donald to end the game with a sack.
Yes, and the thing that really, like I said, really impresses me about this duo, and just to reiterate what you said, is they were able to do it without any help.
No?
Without any help. I mean, you look at a roster like in LA, like Matt Stafford and Cooper Kupp.
Right.
Loaded everywhere.
Help everywhere.
All around. Great offensive line.
Not to mention
great
a proven
pass
head
rush.
coach.
Very proven head coach. I'd say the best in the game.
Some might say. I might agree.
So, I mean, with all
even Tampa Bay.
all the amenities around them, with all the help that they had the entire season at all of the positions, yes, they were great. The thing that is intriguing is how good Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase were able to be, especially when Joe Burrow has no time to throw the ball, no protection whatsoever.
Which is kind of important considering Jamar Chase is, not always, but he is probably his most effective as a down-the-field receiver where the play needs time to generally develop.
Yeah.
And they were still able to be special even though they had no time to throw for that play to develop. But
Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase at 2.
Right. Okay, let's go with number 1. I like Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. First of all, I think Josh Allen is my MVP pick for this upcoming season. I think big, strong, mobile, great arm. Now he's added accuracy to all of his list of skills, which was his issue, and now it's one of his strengths. And I think Stephon Diggs is up there with Devontae Adams. I think he's a top 4 to 5 route runner in the league. Great hands, got a little bit of size. Not breakaway speed, but is certainly fast enough. I just think they're going to be, in another year of them together can only help.
Yeah.
I don't see how they're not absolutely prolific this year.
Yeah. I agree completely.
You go.
Josh Allen is, I'd say, the highest ceiling quarterback that we've seen in the league. Right now, currently.
Is it crazy to say ever? Highest ceiling ever? Name me the last quarterback that was 6'6", 250, ran around like a wide receiver / running back, was always the leading rusher and the leading passer, and oh, by the way, has a cannon, is now super accurate.
Yeah.
Like, if he converts all of that to success, which, I mean, granted, I'm not saying that's an easy step, but that is his ceiling. I don't know. I think he's one of the more skilled, the more physically skilled quarterbacks to ever play the game already.
Definitely one of the most physically skilled.
He's up there with, Warren Moon, Randall Cunningham.
So, yeah, Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs in that number 1 spot for the top 5 duos in the NFL.
Folks. That's
and,
it.
Yep, that's all we have for this episode. That was episode 139. Thank you guys for stopping by. Go check out the Instagram at _issue podcast. Then go over to the Twitter at the issue podcast. And then, from there and from the description of this episode, you'll be able to find our TikTok, which is the issue _ if I'm not mistaken.
If it gets confusing. It's in the link tree. It's in all the. You'll be able to find it.
The link tree is in the description of all the episodes. It's in the bio of our Instagram, the bio of our Twitter as well. So go there, check it out, give it a like, follow, subscribe. Guys, thank you so much for listening. And that was The Issue.